This is normally a lecture that is given at the beginning of the web page assignment, and I think it's important to touch on this information as you go to work in your teams. So first, let me tell you this. I have specifically designed your teams based on many things. I didn't just randomly put you together. And it's my hope that that will help to create a team of people where everyone pitches in. Because I know also one of the most painful things about teamwork is that oftentimes two people do everything and everybody else does nothing. And it's frustrating. And nobody learns anything that way. And I will tell you this, if you're a person who is willing to let somebody else do the work, you're going to have a very difficult time making money and being in this society. I know that sounds kind of, if that's your goal, or being a star athlete, or whatever your goal is. So maybe your goal is something other than making money. That's fine. But whatever it is, you will serve yourself and others if you will be an active participant. And everyone has gifts to bring. And I'm sure I'll mess this quote up, but Einstein says something about, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, you'll always think it's an idiot. So everybody has talents, which is why in this class I try to give you lots of opportunities to show me where your talents lie. Maybe you're a better writer than a test taker. Maybe you are better at computers than creating graphics. So you have lots of opportunities to be yourself here. Also, I will tell you that you are in teams generally of 5 people. Teams of 5 are shown to be the most effective teams. If there are 6, there tends to be division, of course 4, and numbers beyond, as the group gets larger, we see that social loafing increases. So you are also in groups of 5 for a very specific reason. All right, so I'm going to encourage you to understand that part of the project is to learn how to work in a group effectively. And even if you've never participated in a group in your academic career so far, fully participated, give it a shot this time. It won't be painful, and maybe you'll have some fun and learn something. Let's find out what this social loafing is about. All right, so we're going to be talking about the Ringelmann effect and social loafing. A little bit different, similar concepts. And so we're going to look at the Ringelmann effect. That you can read it there. And we look at this, and it's often measured in tug-of-war. So that can be measured in a laboratory, in tug-of-war, and similar type experiments. And then social loafing is when people put forth less than their full effort when they're in a group. And although the underlying, perhaps social loafing in some ways underlies the Ringelmann effect, the Ringelmann effect is specifically about the number of individuals in the teams. Or in the group, pardon me, not necessarily the teams, but in the group. And the team, certainly in the case of the tug-of-war. So social loafing is the deal, is not doing your best. All right, so speaking of this information, the Ringelmann effect was shown in the laboratory a very long time ago. 2 people pulled only 93% of their individual potential. So imagine in your mind, you're playing tug-of-war, and you're 1 against 1, and you are both pulling on each other, maybe over Jell-O or mud or whatever it is. And so if it's 1 against 1, typically you're going to give full effort. So they can measure that full effort in a 1-to-1 ratio, or they can have somebody pull at their full potential, or and they can use accelerometers and other devices. So they then measure, then they add a person on each side. So now we have 2 people on each side. And now we're starting to see that on average, each individual is putting forth less effort by about 7%. Add another person, we have another drop. And now 3-person groups only each individual is only contributing 85% of their maximal capacity. And when we get to an 8-person group, it's dropped to half. Now, do I think that the people are standing there thinking about this? It's like, I'm now only going to exhibit 86% of my individual effort. I do not believe so. I think this is a social phenomenon that we have found that does apply to motor skills and motor performance. So this seems to be a phenomenon that occurs naturally. I'm sure that awareness could switch that. Anyway, so they also did some shouting and clapping studies, all right? So in this case, they would have people in the laboratory shout and clap, and they would measure this by the noise, and I'm sure by videotaping and counting individual claps, etc. All right, so the decibel level. 1 person, 100%. 2-person group, individual effort decreased to 71%. 4-person group to about half. And a 6-person group, only 40% of their effort. So why would this be? This is, maybe they were embarrassed to do it in front of each other. I don't know. I guess that could be taken into consideration. All right, so this is the Ringelmann effect. So could it be that there is a loss of coordination with more members? Or is there a loss of motivation? So let's look at this one. The loss of coordination. So if you're shouting and clapping, and you don't know when to shout and clap, you might be delaying because you are trying to match the group. So that might be, everybody's trying to get together, and it is causing the focus to be on the coordination rather than the maximal effort. Could it be as well that as more people are present, there is just a lack of motivation? A loss of motivation, excuse me. So they controlled for a loss of coordination by giving signals, flashing lights, when they were supposed to shout and clap. So they took the coordination out. They controlled for coordination. And this is, as a scientist, what you would do. If you're designing a study, you control for as many variables as you can so that what you are measuring, you can be more certain of. You can quantify something because you have controlled for extraneous variables. So the results were that in that case we had an 18% decrease due to changes. Then it must be in motivation, and I have a question mark there, but that's really what they have concluded. So we see that with the 6-person group there was a decrease of 26%. So not quite as much. Let's go back here. Oops. Sorry. So we see 2-person 71, 4-person 50. The results showed that there was a decrease with the control of the loss of coordination, indicating that it was likely a lack of motivation or a loss of motivation. If you look back, it's not, so it's probably a combination, right? So these aren't the same numbers. So if we can go back up here. Here we go. So 2-person 71%, 6-person 40%. 2-person 82%, as opposed to 71%. And here we see the 6-person of 26%. So we see that's probably a combination of both things. It's probably a contribution from the lack of coordination or loss of coordination and the loss of motivation. All right, so that is the overall, and that's increasing the number. So there's your difference. The Ringelmann effect is really about increasing the size of the group, whereas social loafing seems to occur regardless of the number, although there are some, as I had mentioned, groups of 5 are optimal, and so there are some things you can do with the number of people in the group that will also help to control for social loafing. All right, so here are some conditions that increase social loafing. If a person cannot be individually evaluated, this is one of the reasons I've given you the option as to whether you're going to be graded as a person or in your group. Now, one of the things as a student I don't like about group projects is that everybody gets the same grade. So I will tell you this though, interestingly, sometimes the groups who choose group grades actually have an easier time with the project and get a better grade. It's interesting. but you do have that option. Also, if you feel like your task is not very meaningful, right? If you are the person in the lab that takes out the trash, you may not feel very connected to the project overall. That makes sense. But you might just perceive that your task is low in meaningfulness. Maybe your task is actually very important, but you have a perception that you are not as important as you think you should be. And that can also lead to social loafing. So it can be real or imagined. If the personal involvement in the task is low, and this happens to people in larger groups. So if there's and I know there aren't a lot of heavy duty tasks in your web page creation. I'm going to suggest to you all that you consider pitching in on the movie. The movie is by far the most time consuming and arduous task within the project. So if there's no way to compare your group to another group, so there's no standard to meet, this is why I'm not necessarily a great fan of 8th place ribbons. It's not very motivating for human nature. We have to pay attention to human nature when we start considering how to make everything super fair and even. It just doesn't seem to motivate people. Well, we can see that. We can actually put numbers to that from science. If you're working with a group of strangers, which is, again, why I take some time to try to put you in teams where you will have something in common. If it's not your topic, some other aspect that I have learned about you through the semester, this way and that way, my own magical algorithm. If maybe a person doesn't feel that they are as good at the job, if they're on a basketball team and they feel like they're the worst player, they may not be as motivated for reasons of insecurity or whatever, but they may exhibit symptoms of social loafing. If you're doing the same thing as 6 other people, same kind of thing as your task being low in meaningfulness. And this happens sometimes in sports where if you think that you're competing against somebody who is weaker, you may not put forth your full effort. And we've seen that happen in big games, and that can often be a very bad strategy. Okay, how do we get rid of this? Well, we want to emphasize the importance of individual pride and unique contributions. So we want to give people a chance to be recognized for the work they have done. And so it's not just about the group, right? We want to make sure that everybody can be, their efforts are seen. If you're working on a big group project and at the end, nobody knows your part in the project, man, you've got to be a really unique person to be fully motivated through the whole thing. It's not that we should do things to get credit. I'm not suggesting that, but it's nice for people or one person or your team or somebody to know, what part you played in a project. And in our case, grades. Grades are how we deal with it here in academia. If you're aware of where social loafing occurs, and you guys are familiar with it from your group projects and in school, but also, of course, can happen in any kind of team, any kind of group, and it happens all the time in the workplace. Part of what I try to do in this class is to show you guys where some of the skills you are practicing in class are going to assist you in your future career, because we can't really teach you how to be a successful professional sitting in a classroom without sometimes considering what it's going to be you're facing in your work life. Well, you're going to be working with people. The thing that makes us unique is that regardless if you're going to be a physical therapist or own a gym or be a personal trainer or be an athlete, you're going to work with people. And so knowing how people operate and being really good at working with people to get the best outcome will benefit you. Meet to discuss social loafing. That's what we're doing right now. Have a talk about it. And this will stay with you. I'll start to hear the term social loafing from you guys. So and so is social loafing, unfortunately. Hopefully that won't happen. Understand that everybody's contributions are important. It's very easy to think that you're the only one doing anything important. You're the only one that's working hard. And, well, if you will appreciate that everybody has stuff going on and that everybody's busy and that everybody's job is challenging in some way, then sometimes everybody gets along better and does their work more synchronously. Units of 5. 5 is your number. You might see that on a test, indicating you actually watched this slide. All right, so in athletics, of course, peer relationships are obviously important. If you've been on a team where you don't get along with your teammates, you know what I mean. I know students who have left scholarships because they did not get along with their team and it was too miserable for them, even for a free education. They couldn't find another school to take them. So it is a hugely important part of success. So if you are in a team, or if you're working as a coach, you've decided to work in that way, even athletic training, enhancing peer relationships, understanding how important this is. All right, so of course cooperative goals is obvious in the sports setting in that everybody wants to win, but if you can go a little beyond that, that will help to create more group cohesion. If you're working with young athletes, encourage them to work together, give them some autonomy. We're about to talk about motivation, and one of the components of producing motivated outcomes, motivated people, is to provide a platform where the individuals feel a sense of autonomy. They feel like they can do it themselves. They know they can do it themselves. They have the opportunity to try things themselves, things that without someone standing over them. So encourage young athletes to practice autonomy in their problem solving. And encourage them to do that in a team with communication and to listen, to talk, and then to listen. We have to sometimes teach these skills or to remind people how to accomplish the best outcome for the team. Particularly with children, small group activities, and maximum participation. So here we have it. You have a big group. Let's say you have 160 students that are going to put up a website this semester. How do you get that done? Well, you want maximum participation. So you try to design it so everybody can pick a part that they like, they get involved, they can work together as groups, they can work in their individual corners if that's more supportive to their life, due to work or other commitments, etc. Give everybody a chance to participate in a way that's meaningful to them. But put them in subgroups, groups of 5. So that is exactly what we're doing. You see, I teach you this science and I'm also using it on you. All right. Select leaders on criteria other than athletic ability. So in sports, obviously, we've all watched the Rudy movies. It is not always the star quarterback who is the best team captain, right? Sometimes the star athlete is not the best people person. Maybe they are. Team-oriented. Pride and satisfaction from the team. It's we, it's not me. Okay, pride in team approach with a unifying team goal. Make sure everybody is valued and recognized by coach and teammates. Good leadership is important. If you are in a position of leadership, be a good leader. You have to make an effort to develop task and social cohesion. So you just can't forget about this social piece. For some people, this class is annoying. They think it's touchy-feely, it's not important in kinesiology. And I guess I have to, again, just say, well, if you're going to work with people, it's probably a good idea to know how to work with people. We have this team and working on your communication skills. You know, there are classes you can take. There are books you can read. If you're not particularly good at communication, it's a skill you can learn. I have a client I've worked with for several years who is a young man and very successful and has many successful businesses and many properties in many states. I would say that by society standards, he is an incredibly successful human being. And he came to me because he needed to work on his communication skills, his ability to talk with his employees and his team and to create a team and to be a good leader because it wasn't natural to him. You know, sometimes people excel in one area and then need help in others. So it has been incredibly helpful for him to put some effort to this, and I think has also increased his success. So this is something that you can also do for yourself. All right, I think that's it.